In this project, Prepatec Eugenio Garza Lagüera and Prepatec Payalto joining teams and will create a project in which we will explain the exponential growth and exponential decay, applying it to a real-life situation. We will use Chernobyl.
31 years ago, there was a chemical accident in Chernobyl, Ukraine. There was a nuclear plant. Scientists were running some tests. If this test succeeded, it would have saved many nuclear energy, but it failed. There was an explosion in one of the reactors, and many nuclear chemicals were released, and radioactive vapor, included uranium and graphite, were shot 1,000 meters into the sky, and many people got diseases and radioactivity thanks to that explosion.
In November 1986, scientists and soldiers from the Soviet Union created a sarcophagus. This is considered a huge steel construction that blocks the nuclear energy from escaping.
Every year, the radioactivity is increasing because it has been impossible for the government and the scientists to contain the nuclear energy in Chernobyl because the particles in the atoms start to split and begin to reproduce. They also don't know a way in which the nuclear energy can be stopped, only trapped.
Nuclear energy is dangerous because the radioactive wastes take a long time to degrade, and sometimes they transform into others. People don't know how to get rid of it, only blocking it with a sarcophagus.
Nuclear reactions create an exponential growth in atoms because the atoms split. This starts with uranium and one accelerated atom in which they collapse. These release energy and 3 neutrons. The neutrons will now be another uranium atom, and so on. So that is why it is nearly impossible to contain.
Because of the radiation in Chernobyl, it would take at least 20,000 years to be safe for humans to live. It would take a lot of time to completely disappear, and we don't think it will be possible for all of it to go.
Exponential growth is when multiplicity gets higher. Usually the exponential increase has an initial value, a value with a constant increment, and also has the value in which especially said how many does the increment repeat. When the exponential increases, the base is bigger than 1. An example is log of 2x, in which the number 2 is the base, and it is bigger than 1, so the graph will go upwards.
Exponential decay is when multiplicity gets lower. Usually the value is less than 1. An example is log 1/2 x, in which 1/2 is the base and it is smaller than 1, so the graph will go downwards.
We will explain how the radiation expanded in Chernobyl with the equation y equals 3 to the power of x. The y-axis represents the radiation in Chernobyl, and the x-axis the time it took for it to spread. The number 3 will be our base. This means the graph will be increasing. Our key points will be 0,1 and 1, base. We substitute our base and graph our coordinates. Because this equation can't be negative, our vertical asymptote will be equal to 0, and our domain will be from 0 to infinity. Our range will be from 0 to infinity 2.
The other graph is how the population decreased over time. The x-axis represents the time it passed, and the y-axis is how the population lowered. Our equation is y equals 1/2 to the x power. This way, our graph will go down. Our key points will be 0,1 and 1, base. We substitute our base and graph our coordinates. Our vertical asymptote will be equal to 0, and our domain will be from 0 to infinity, and our range will be 0 to infinity 2.
The nuclear energy is a renewable energy that wants to replace the carbon and oil plants, but this has a bigger responsibility, no errors. If there is a mistake, a nuclear plant can be easily turned into a nuclear bomb. Nuclear energy isn't clean because their wastes are dangerous for thousands of years.
In Mexico, there are only 2 nuclear plants in Veracruz. We believe that they are safe because people that know about the topic are the ones in charge. In the case of Chernobyl, the accident occurred because of a test that was done previously which didn't work out, and because there was little personnel working that night. We agreed to have nuclear plants in Mexico because there is renewable energy. The less the plants, the better, because the less wasted it produces.
The Soviet authorities were so rushed to start the test that they ignored every procedure of security that they should have made. If these were made, the explosion probably wouldn't have happened. After the accident, it was almost impossible to avoid the propagation of the radiation because it had expanded to several countries in Europe through air in a radiation cloud. This cloud couldn't have gotten to Mexico because they're too far apart and the radiation wasn't enough.
The 4 environmental consequences from Chernobyl were deterioration of the atmosphere. Humans, plants, and animals were affected by radiation, generation of sickness, mutation, and generation of genetics.
Nuclear weapons cause radioactive contamination. This contamination took a long time to disappear and even developed years after the accident.
We believe that nuclear energy can be good if it is controlled by people that know about the topic, and the number of plants per country is low. We think that it is incorrect to produce nuclear weapons and use it to harm people, a country, or the world. A solution to this could be to make a treaty between all or most of the countries in which they agree the number of nuclear plants per country.
This way of working is different than the way that we usually do. To have a team with members of different campus, this makes it a little more difficult for us to communicate and to organize because we didn't get together. What we like about the project is that we learn to communicate at distance and to solve problems of communication. This way, the next project with similar characteristics, we will now know how to solve the problems.